Tonight we had an amazing event, Womenomics. It gave a blueprint of being a successful woman of color, telling you how you did it behind the scenes, how you do it when you actually get your business, and then how do you give back to the community once you have been successful.
I'm delighted to be here this evening to talk about the role that women have in fueling the economy, making the economy, breaking the economy. Whatever happens to the economy, you can rest assured that women play an integral part at every conceivable level.
I thought it was really important to participate because, one, I am all about the power of women, and I believe wholeheartedly in the importance of having public-private partnerships, the intersection of the private sector, philanthropic sector, as well as government to break down barriers and advance opportunities for Black women, Black businesses, and those who are most underrepresented here in this country.
Thank you to the Catalyst Network Foundation for having me here at Womenomics, the meeting of the minds. It takes a village to build a village, and we all come to the table with ideas. That's how the creation process happens, and that's why this is so important.
Here because I believe in the power of women. I believe in our buying power. I believe in our power as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as citizens. And so I think it's important for events like this to be able to pour back into individuals who are looking for tools and resources and networking to just be able to replicate some of the same success and learnings.
And Industrial Bank is just honored to be here tonight in support of the Catalyst Network. We value our ongoing partnership and relationship with the network as we have very similar goals and missions, and we're all about the positive impact of the communities.
I partnered with the Catalyst Foundation because our chapter does a lot of mentoring. We also like to make sure that we get people the word out, to reach out to our students, make sure they have scholarships and internships, and that is one of the reasons we have partnered with this wonderful organization.
Catalyst Network Foundation is a phenomenal organization that gives students an opportunity to get great exposure and learning skills and life skills that help them propel themselves forward.
I'm excited to continue to partner with them on Meeting of the Minds and other events where we can bring together community and investors and have this environment of knowledge sharing, specifically around economics and growth. Tonight we heard from a phenomenal group of women who talked about investment in community and self, professional development and professional empowerment. And these types of talks really do make a difference with our organization, our members, and the people we serve. An amazing event tonight. It is always special when women who are accomplished, who have so many things going on in their lives, are able to take the time to give back to others, to give advice on how to be successful, how to manage time, how to network and do the things that are important. It was awesome. A very worthwhile event. I'm glad I attended. Tonight was amazing. It was so awesome to see that there are so many strong Black women that are making a name for themselves, especially as a young Black woman. I got so much out of tonight, and I can't wait for next events.
This was a phenomenal event. Understanding that in this place that I'm in my life, I can see myself on the stage one day. Understanding that they started with similar backgrounds, similar expertise, and they've really been able to figure out where they're going to go next in their career. So it was very empowering. I'm so excited I came.
I will be your moderator tonight. My name is Trey Barnett. I am the Director of Professional Development for Catalyst Network Foundation. We provide training and getting ready for college preparatory for youth in the junior and senior year of high school. We have a great panel tonight. I will introduce them in a little bit. But before we do, we have some sponsors that we would like to come up and speak on behalf of your organization. Without them, we would not be able to do this.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good. Fantastic. My name is James Gaston III, and I'm actually Vice President of Communications for the DC Alumni Morehouse College chapter. Once again, we have partnered with, as always, with the Catalyst Foundation Network, and I want to thank everyone for coming out. Every time they have an event, we try to definitely let our alumni know, and in certain situations, we try to actually sit on the panel. On this particular one, I think we're going to miss out on that one. But like I said, we are definitely glad to partner with this event. And I also wanted to thank my other sponsors, the Williams Franklin Foundation. They're another partner event. They're joining the Catalyst Network, and so we want to thank them for coming out tonight as well. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'll be in the back. Once again, my name is James Gaston III, Vice President of Communications for the Morehouse College Alumni Association.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we're going to have Jackie Boyles from Industrial Bank to come up and say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Bowles. I'm Senior Vice President, Director of Industrial Bank, and we are so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having us. We have been a continuous partner of the Catalyst Network, and we have a very similar mission. So for those of you who don't know, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know, but for those of you who don't know, Industrial Bank is 84 years old. We're a third generation African-American owned bank. We have 7 locations. Thank you. We have 7 locations throughout the District of Columbia, 2, soon to be 3, in Prince George's County. We are a CDFI, which means we reinvest 60% of the assets that we earn back into the communities that we work with. This is the community that we work with. We do that via small sponsorships. We do that via business loans, home loans. We recently started a program where every other Tuesday we are in DC jail working with incarcerated individuals. I work along with Melanie Woodard, who has the camera. She's our Director of Marketing. We work with maximum security individuals, and recently we've started to work with young men, emerging men, who are looking at release. And so Industrial Bank takes a proactive stance at trying to reduce recidivism. And so I just want to welcome you all. Please come to Industrial Bank. We have a variety of products and services. We pay you to bank with us. That's all I'm going to say. It's called Kasasa. Look it up on our website. Come see us. It is your bank. We are your community, and we're here to stay. So thank you, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie. Next, on behalf of the Wage Foundation, we're going to have Dwight Franklin coming up.
Hello, everybody. All right, my name is Dwight Franklin. This is my wife,
Shelly Franklin.
All right, and we started the Williams Franklin Foundation about 4 years ago. Our goal is to raise money for students who attend HBCUs. Right. This past year, we for this present school year, we awarded 25 scholarships for $25,000. Excuse me, 20 scholarships for $25,000. All right. And the students who got scholarships, they attended schools like Howard University, University District of Columbia, Fisk, Kentucky State, Virginia State, Hampton, Howard, Morehouse, Spelman, North Carolina A&T, and a few others, Morgan State as well. So there were about 9 different HBCUs that we gave scholarships to, and our goal is to continue raising money for our students who attend our schools. And we need all of you all support, and we are extremely excited to be partnering with you all as well, and we look forward to a long-lasting relationship.
I just want to add, in addition to providing scholarships, our goal is also to assist students who are in need with internships, scholarships, as you mentioned, but also placing jobs and mentoring. Because as you may know, if you're a student in need, you need a lot of support. The scholarships are great. Academic scholarships are great. You need that to get through. But in addition to that, you need a village around you to support you with skills in terms of career skills, in terms of development, in terms of your profession. Maybe you don't know anyone who's an attorney and you want to be an attorney. It'd be great to sit down and maybe talk with one of you who are in that field to help assist them and guide them through, not just through law school, but also being a young attorney. So we try to galvanize people just like you to join forces with us to help those students to be a network. And we hope that you all will help out. Thank you so much.
And one last thing, the Williams Franklin Foundation, please Google us. All right.
Yes, www.wmsfranklinfoundation.org. Thank you.
Powerful work. Powerful work. Thank you. Thank you. Next, I'm going to have Erica Roberts, president of the Black MBA DC Association. Oh, and I apologize. My fault. Chapter of the year.
Hi, I'm Erica Roberts. I am the president of the Washington, D.C. chapter of the National Black MBA Association. We focus on advancing intellectual and economic wealth in the African American community. We support black businesses, we support professional development, we support youth. So all of the panelists here are definitely women, amazing women that we want to support and that we want to promote and that we want to encourage you to do the same. We have, I think I see London McLeod, our membership chair. If you have any questions, please see me or her on how you can get involved or how you can get developed and join the ranks of the 1,400 members of the chapter of the year, National Black MBA Association, DC chapter.
Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, Tim Woods, Director of Business Development for Sterling Motor Cars.
Just briefly on behalf of Sterling Motor Cars, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Catalyst Foundation and the work that it does is very important to Sterling Motor Cars and the things that we do. In addition to being a premier auto provider in this area, we have a scholarship foundation in which we provide scholarship to students. So when you support us with purchasing vehicles from us and servicing your cars with us, you're also supporting the community. You're supporting the community in terms of job creation, in terms of scholarship creation. As we have young men, these two young men here who also work at Sterling Motor Cars. One young man here started with us at 18 years of age and is now a sales advisor at 21. So we put, the business definitely pays it forward, and we like supporting events like this. And the Moorheads, in fact, have been sponsors and mentors of mine, and I'm where I am today because of them and their caring in the community and the things that they do to give back. So please continue to reach back and help others succeed.
Thank you, Tim. And that's a great segue to our first panelist, Joyce Moorhead, who is owner of Sterling Motor Cars and also founder of the Joyce and Tom Foundation. Do you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Are we introducing ourselves or are we talking?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Introducing ourselves. Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I am Joyce Moorhead. You've seen my husband up on some of the monitors. That's Thomas. He is my better 1/8. And when you see him, remind him. Thomas has been a dealer for 30-some years, and I am a lawyer by training. We've been in Sterling, and we've been in Virginia now for about almost 20 years, 18 years. I have practiced public interest law most of my career. I'm also practicing, obviously, on behalf of all of our dealerships, and I think you see the lineup over here. New and used, I hope to see you at the dealership, and I'm looking forward to your questions, and it's a pleasure to be here among these amazing women.
So, Joyce, only one question tonight. What kind of discount can I get on a Rolls Royce?
Actually, we have a sale.
Sale on a Rolls,
There's a
y'all.
sale
Listen
on
up.
Rolls Royces. Everybody who wants to come out this week, sale on Rolls Royces.
It's a pleasure to have you. There we go. He's still on mill. Our next panelist, we have actually my high school alumni. We would go back now with 20.
Don't tell him. Don't tell it.
2 years. 2 years. You know, black don't crack. Eris T. Scales. She's the Chief Partnership Activator for the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Inc.
So I'm going to modify that title just slightly. So, hello. How are you guys? All right.
Hold on. We didn't hear y'all. How you guys doing tonight?
Okay.
There we go.
So, I'm Eris Scales, and I currently serve as the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Metropolitan Washington, D.C. chapter. I'm here in two roles, and I'm also the executive director for the mayor's office on partnerships and grant services, as well as now the interim executive director on the mayor's office of volunteerism. And so you would probably say, why are you here? And what capacity are you speaking to us tonight? I started my career in the private sector in Atlanta, Georgia, with a company called CT Corporation, which serves as a registered agent for Fortune 500 companies globally. And one of the things that I would consistently run into while working with CT was being contacted by minority-owned businesses that were seeking our services, corporate filings, merger and acquisition assistance, their expansion into new markets, dissolutions, tax support, etc. Consistently, those businesses were not able to take advantage of the services that we provided. So I decided to leave the private sector, got my master's in public administration, moved to Indianapolis, started that city's minority and women business ownership division, and have been continuing that continuum for the past 15 years. Currently, as the chief partnership officer, essentially, for the district, I'm very fortunate to work with 26 agencies here in the District of Columbia that invest over $1 billion worth of grants and support to invest in not just businesses, but a menu of strategic initiatives to advance prosperity and inclusive economic growth here. So I look forward to speaking more with you all. And then also with the National Coalition, we are hyper-focused on raising funds and investing funds in Black women-owned businesses here in the District of Columbia.
Amen. So what do you do with the rest of your time? Next, we have Ernestine Morrison.
Yes.
She's a poet, actress, but most importantly, co-owner and CEO of the Tulsa Real Estate Foundation.
CCO, yes.
CCO.
I am. Hi, family. How are you? I just flew in from Atlanta to be here with you guys. I'm really, really excited. Like he said, I am Ernestine Morrison. I'm an actress. I'm a poet. I also own a concierge company, and I am the co-owner of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, which is the first Black-owned real estate crowd fund regulated by the SEC. And I'm here. Really excited. Excited to be here.
So what she's leaving out, though, is we raised how much in how many days?
So we raised $10 million our first 7 days of launching our fund, and currently sitting at $12 million in just 4 months. We launched our fund June 1st, which was the 97th anniversary of the Black Wall Street bombing, which is why our fund is named Tulsa Real Estate Fund in honor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, to pay homage to Black Wall Street and Black entrepreneurship.
10 million in 7 days. Imagine that. Think about that for a second.
Along with my husband, my partner, co-owner, and the founder, Mr. Jay Morrison.
Jay Morrison. Yep. And last but not least, we have Unique Gibson, who's the founder of Dream Village.
Yeah, so my name is Unique Jones Gibson. I'm very proud of that last name.
Jones Gibson. Sorry.
Told my husband we had to keep it. So I'm Unique Jones Gibson. I am the founder of a space called Dream Village, which is a co-working space. We also recently just wrapped a tour across 5 cities in partnership with the Oprah Winfrey Network. And then separately, I also am the founder of a campaign and a platform by the name of Because of Them We Can, where we uplift excellence in Black history 24/7, reaching 40 million people a month online.
Nice.
Awesome. This is an amazing panel that we have tonight, and it's right in line with the theme. So the title is Womenomics. We want to dig deep, peel it back. What's the formula for someone to get started, get it going, become successful, and finally give back? Tonight is all about giving you guys those tools and resources in the backstory to get there. So first question for the panel, what methods should people use to establish Black investment funds that are operated by African American women and or men?
Well, I think the first, is this on? Hello. Repeat the question.
What methods should people use when it pertains to investments, raising funds for the African American community?
Gotcha. Well, to start with, I think, we have these type of conversations, and the Queens, we were talking about this before we started the panel. We have these conversations amongst our peer group. And a lot of our peers went to college, they have MBAs and PhDs. And I think we have to start at the root, and it's taking it back to the community around us who may not be as educated or knowledgeable on investments and money. And I think we have to start there and re-educate and offer resources to the community that may not be sitting right next to us all the time. And that's what we do with our investment fund. We take it to the streets. We can sit in boardrooms all day, but the people who need it are the ones who are not sitting right next to us. And we take it to the streets. We go on a 25 city corner class tour every year where we go to the corner and we teach financial literacy and we teach about investments so people can even be engaged and know what investments is first before we start having these types of conversations.
I would add to that, probably the thing that's first and foremost that we see as a fund is the family. And it's a place that we often overlook in getting started, because I don't know how many of you have been a part of investment groups. You've had investment clubs. You've had family funds. You've been a part of a church that's had a credit union or a fund. And these are ways that are often overlooked in what is the beginning, fledgling beginning of wealth development. Another part of that you're surely aware of is absolutely being willing to associate yourself with someone in the area that you're interested in. I met two young women tonight. A part of what I didn't mention when I said that we're in the automotive industry is that we're also in hospitality. And while we are with another gentleman who is the same color as me, and we own in excess of 20 plus hotels through him, I met a young woman tonight, and she and another woman are partners, and they have already developed 2 hotels. So sometimes it's just, number one, going back again to talking to your family, to talking to friends, the opportunity to start investing and pulling together a fund can be as close as your family, your church, your neighbor, and your friend. It's really not mysterious. We just have to talk among ourselves, talk to each other, find out what we're doing and how we're doing it, never be afraid to ask questions. And I guess the overriding thing that you'll hear, at least from me throughout this, is if it's something that you're passionate about, and that's the thing that I find that probably got you to be a dreamer and inspire and tell people every day to follow their dreams, is to follow that thing that you're passionate about. So find the passion, talk with someone else who shares the passion, be willing to take on other people, partners who share your passion. It's not brain surgery. We're not unique. We did it. You can do it. I'm sorry. You are unique.
You are unique.
Excuse me.
Jones Gibson.
I want to, so I'm happy to hear Joyce speak about there's different levels, right, in terms of investing and supporting. And one of the things that I'm proud about with the National Coalition of 100 Black Women is that we actually, again, so we raise money so that we can invest into Black women-owned businesses here in Washington, D.C. Now, those investments range from $1,000 up to $2,000. But those micro investments have been able to be catalytic for some of the women-owned businesses that we are supporting here in the district. I mean, to help them do things like business planning, online marketing support, strategic coaching, et cetera, which helps them increase the number of clients and customers, as well as to be able to now position themselves in front of other donors and investors. So that's great. And it is not rocket science. It's 30 women who are pooling our money together. We're asking our friends to donate $35, at fundraisers or happy hours or soirees, and it helps us raise, about $15,000 a year that we can give out. On the flip side to that, just yesterday even, I was sitting in a meeting. We have launched in the District of Columbia under Mayor Bowser what we're calling the Inclusive Innovation Fund for Entrepreneurs, underrepresented entrepreneurs. And so when I think about what can we do to have more investment that is going into the Black community? First and foremost, we have to get more Black people into the field of finance and investment. So we cannot promote, we cannot establish, we cannot advocate for what we do not know and what we do not do. The other thing is that we have to get politicians and elected officials and directors who are leading these offices into roles who are going to advocate on our behalf. So what we've done with the Innovation Fund is the district is investing $1.5 million seed funding to a group called the Marathon Foundation, which is run by 2 Black men here in the District of Columbia. That's fantastic. When we launch that, it will be a total of $6 million. So my role as essentially the public-private partnership officer is to work in tandem with them as we go out and engage more corporations, more philanthropic partners to help us maximize that. But I can't be at the table speaking fluently to that. I can't have a partner like Marathon Foundation if we don't have more of us who are willing to kind of take that risk. And unfortunately, we are considered risks, although we know that we're not a risk, but when we fail, it gets amplified in a different way from our counterparts. So we have to hold policy, elected officials, we have to make them come to the forefront to be that seed foundation or that seed funding so that we can be catalytic and bring others along.
So we talked a little bit about the who, right? It's the family, it's the friends. We talked about the what, which is the fund. Let's actually peel it back some more. How? If I'm someone in this audience who hears that and they said, wow, that's great, get with some people, 30 people, start a fund, but how? Give them the nuts and bolts of how to create that fund. And I know you all have 4 different ways of doing it, so we want to hear the nuts and bolts of it.
So I'm not going to speak specifically to a fund, but just in general, I think a lot of times when we talk about how do we create what it is we desire or how do we build, a lot of times I think Issa Rae said we like to try to network up. And that's foul or it's flawed out the gate. A lot of times if we just look to our right or our left, there are individuals with very similar interests, with resources and with information, tools, whatever it is, that could actually help us. And you find that even in them spaces when you meet somebody to the left or the right, you find oftentimes a mirror in terms of hustle and in terms of desire. And so I would say for somebody who's looking for how, don't overthink it. It's, who do you talk to on a consistent basis? Who are your friends? What does your network group look like? What are events like this like, so that you can connect with like-minded individuals and determine how you work together collectively to get to where you're trying to go. But the network up thing is definitely not where it is, in my opinion.
And then I guess if you're talking about organizationally, as distinguished from, well, individuals to organizations. I mean, there are certain things that you probably need to do. And that's, I'm a lawyer. And I know there are 1,000 lawyer jokes in here, but at some point or another, you all need us. So don't overlook just the simple basics of talk to a lawyer. If you have an idea, follow the process, get it, copyright it. If it's something that's proprietary, do the necessary legal steps to make it yours. How many times have we heard of people who had an idea and the next time you saw it, it was on Shark Tank and somebody else had that idea? I know of myself, if I had only thought of that thing in the windshield, I could be rich. So it is a matter of doing the homework, finding a lawyer. If you're interested in a business, there are still certain things that you're going to need. You're going to need to incorporate in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You're going to need a tax ID number. You're going to need just basic things that, I don't care, what color we are. There are some things, some bases that you're going to have to touch in order to be successful. You're going to need to pay your taxes. You're going to need to find out how to do that. You're going to need to, as I said, have a tax ID number. You're going to need an accountant. It's not brain surgery, but it doesn't just come up out of the ground. And while we're all college educated and we all know a great deal about a lot of things, don't overlook the basics. The basics are put it in writing. If you have partners, have a partnership agreement. If you are a sole proprietor, even do your homework and incorporate in that way. It's still just some fundamentals. This is still the business of America's business. So be about the business of taking care of your business. Touch all the bases, get your lawyer, and fill out the paperwork and do the right thing to get started. So your idea doesn't get stolen. You don't get shut down because you've got a name that somebody already has. This is a lot of small things that are not, again, brain surgery, but there are things that you really are going to need to do in order to get yourself up and going if you want to be serious and you want to be taken seriously. You just can't go online and print that card. That's for, 900 cards for $99. You're going to need to be able at some point to have a LLC or an INC behind that name. So don't overlook the basics.
I would definitely just piggyback off what you said. And I think a lot of the times we start businesses and we don't really think of legal representation a lot of the times. And I know for our fund specifically, before we started our fund, Jay, my husband, tried to do this 4 years ago where he was trying to start a fund basically on Instagram. And he did this big post, and who wants to pitch in with me and buy back the block? And his attorney called him and said, take that post down. You don't want to go to jail. So definitely do your due diligence and research and study and know the ins and outs and have legal representation for sure.
Just wanted to piggyback on both those points. So I've made a lot of my money on the internet. I would say a lot of times we have these amazing ideas and we get so excited that we like to tweet about them. We like to hashtag them before we even do the basic before we even go to an attorney and just spend $9.99 and buy the domain name. Yep. So I always like to say before it's a hashtag, make sure you own the URL. That's just basic 101, fundamental. I always look at people who buy real estate, right? It's great. You buy real estate, you own real estate in DC, Baltimore, whatever, but you can also own real estate online, and it can be just as lucrative if you have the right traffic going to your block. So I would say that's also a fundamental piece.
You can't have business without a business.
So we got the who, we got the what, we got the how. Let's talk about hurdles, initial hurdles, things that maybe would have derailed you and you wouldn't be where you are today, wouldn't be as successful you are. So talk about some of the testimonials that you guys went through in the very beginning that you overcame to be where you are right now.
I'll start. I'm an actress. I've been acting since I was 10 years old, grew up in Hollywood, started acting on big Hollywood sets when I was 10 years old. Being in the arts, went to performing arts high school, majored in theater in college. So now to be even sitting at this panel and to be in this world that I'm in now with my businesses, I couldn't have even imagined 5 years ago I would be having this type of conversation. As an actress, you're worried about getting on camera and you're worried about booking jobs. And as I matured and seen, how our community is pushed out financially and economically, I said, well, the real power is behind the camera. And that's when I had to say, I remember doing an audition. I had to do this really big audition, and at the time, I had done some research for this audition, and what I found at the time was the average median net worth of a black woman was $500. And I knew at that time, when I was doing this research, I was standing on $1,000 shoes and $500 hair in my head. And I said, how could women who look like me in my age range, median net worth be $500? It was like a new world opened up for me. I was just like, I'm sitting over here just thinking about Hollywood and thinking about acting. I need to really, really get into business because that's where you win. And for me, just even being a co-owner in a real estate fund, something I knew nothing about, I'm still learning words and terminology and the lingo coming from being in Hollywood and being an actress and being a poet. So that is a huge, huge hurdle for me, even to this day, sitting in these big meetings and being taken serious as a businesswoman and not just an actress and not just a talent on screen. It's a constant battle. It's a constant fight. And I constantly am opening books and meeting like-minded people and meeting other women in business so I can be comfortable in knowing the language and learning certain terminologies and, just being in a whole different world than what I've been in since I was 10 years old. It's a huge, huge hurdle for me.
So this is I'm trying to think like where I want to start with answering this question. So something that I mean, most people know. So I have a daughter who's 20 years old. And when I got pregnant, everyone said, like, wow, Eris, you didn't seem like the type who would have a baby so young, right? My mother actually started college when she was 33 years old, and she was the first person in our family. She has about 14 brothers and sisters who ever went to college. So when I think about hurdles, there was not necessarily a blueprint for me, I'm sure for many of us in this room, for how to get to whatever it looks like. And what kept driving me and pushing me was when I would hear people say, well, you didn't seem like the one who would have a baby so young, right? I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And so what happened was I went so hard, right? By the time I was 24, I had my master's. I'm in New York, I'm in Atlanta. Now I'm in DC doing fellowships. I mean, I'm doing it. And I think for most people who know me, they associate me with being a person who will get it done. Like whatever, like I'm gonna get it done. But what that has done and kind of the repercussions of that is that I didn't necessarily take the time to, and we were talking about, we don't follow the rules, we're nonconformists, to kind of acclimate to some of the social norms and these political norms that are expected of you once you get into leadership. And so people would see me accomplishing things, or they know that I would take a responsibility very seriously. They would put me into a leadership role. I'm gonna be honest, and I may or may not have stayed in those roles beyond a year or 2 years, right? Those were hurdles. Those were things that I had to learn. So now that I'm in my 40s, as I'm progressing and I'm moving forward and I'm trying to work and bring others along, those are stories that I'm being transparent about, that I like to be honest about. It's like you may see people somewhere, but you don't know the entire backstory of how they got there. And that there are going to be multiple, and I mean multiple failures along the way. And so you don't take those personally. So for me, the hurdles have actually been trying to overcome a family who did not necessarily come from a lineage of education, opportunity, having a roadmap, and being someone who didn't necessarily follow all of those social expectations and norms that are sometimes placed on us in terms of what success looks like. But the beautiful thing is, it kind of doesn't matter, because we get to carve that and define that and navigate that for ourselves. So I would say one of the biggest things has been necessary, like just owning and embracing who I am as a woman and as a leader. That has been a hurdle. Because when you get into these positions, when you get these opportunities, we are often met with a certain level of opposition that sometimes our counterparts are. And I see y'all nodding your head, so you understand what I'm saying. So those are hurdles, but we also can use those to our advantage. And I think the more we grow and we learn professionally and socially and become civically minded, those are things that we begin to incorporate into our story and how we begin to help and assist other ladies getting into these leadership positions.
One of the women you heard when we first were introduced was a young woman from Industrial Bank. And we moved to this community in 2001. We actually opened our dealership, BMW, in January of 2001, the very first day after, it was January 2nd. And we, by that time, had already met the people at Industrial Bank. Because the enduring issue for any business is fund development. It's capital. So how do you overcome the hurdles of most institutional lenders? If you have exhausted the family, as we talked about, you have your investment club, either you've raised enough seed money now. The biggest hurdle will be funding. And where is that going to come from? We are very fortunate, and we were very fortunate. to tie this to a hurdle is kind of hard because we were very fortunate to meet Doyle Mitchell at Industrial Bank. Now, I guess if we didn't know any better, I could call you need a business plan a hurdle because you do need a business plan. So while I can tell you that Doyle and his family and everyone else in the bank embraced us, one hurdle that you may have, fortunately we did not have, because my husband's been a dealer for 30-some years, is a business plan can be a hurdle. And if you don't know, I don't have a business plan, and lots of us don't have them, don't know how to put one together, engage the services of someone who can help you do that. So it's things like that that can be hurdles, but they're all things that can be overcome. And I guess throughout everything that we say, because you are looking at, we're not different. I'm going to say unique. We're not different. But I would guarantee you that the underlying the thread that runs between all of us is a degree of self-confidence that is the underpinning for everything that all of us have accomplished. So I say that not to be Pollyannish, but if you really believe, is there a hurdle? It's a challenge. Is it a hurdle? If you believe. I don't mean to, be, as I said, Pollyannish, but at the end of the day, and that's the thing for us who are sitting here with children, is to instill in them the confidence that it can, whatever it is, challenge, hurdle, whatever name you want to call it, can be overcome. Again, in business, as women, as people of color, there are hurdles, and it can be that business plan. It can be not knowing that there's a black bank. I'm sure as prominent as Industrial Bank is, if you walked out on the street and you asked the next brown person you saw, is there a black bank in Washington, D.C., I'm not sure that they would know. So continuing always to do research there, while I say we're confident, and I know that we are, at the end of the day, though, there is this thing called individual responsibility. I'm not conservative by any stretch of the imagination, and I can forgive a lot of things, but you're going to have to take some responsibility for doing the research so as to be prepared for whatever that hurdle is. And you never know what it's going to be. It could be an interview when somebody throws you a bogus question. But it's looking online before you get to the interview to know how to respond to that. There are hurdles every day to get here where we are, whether it's financial, whether it's a remark, whether it's putting your application at the bottom of the bin. It's persistence, it's self-confidence. Hurdles don't bother me. They just don't. I mean, to me, they're just something else to jump over. And you've got to see what you're going after in the same way. If somebody else has done it, you can do it. We did it, and I assure you, while one of us is unique, we are not that different.
So you get past the hurdles, and then you get to that first deal, or you get to the first business. Talk about that. Talk about what your first deal was and the success of it and how it was created or business.
Wanted to touch on hurdles really quickly. So one of the hurdles that I think that I've found, and if you're building whether you're building your own business or your own team, is really building a team. That's a huge hurdle because if you operate from a space of excellence, you of course want to work with other individuals who operate from a space of excellence. But everybody who says they're excellent isn't excellent or committed, right? And your deliverables and your deadlines and your obligations don't stop or don't cease because people are mediocre. And so for me, I think a hurdle has been combating or refuting or being a menace to mediocrity as it pertains to people, and really challenging folks in my environment and who I engage from an energy perspective to be excellent. And I think that's a hurdle because we've all been there. We've all had job interviews where we're like, I just need this job. And you say whatever you have to say to get the job. And so as a business owner, that for me is still one of my biggest hurdles. It's building a team. First deal. I got my first deal really by creating and putting things into the universe, and was able to, when I launched Because Then We Can, a number of brands started to reach out because they thought it was a unique way to kind of skirt some of the rules, looking at my attorney, skirt some of the rules as it pertains to like estates, right? And talking about these Black history figures in a way where I was able to amplify them without exploiting them, and was able to amplify them without people trying to sue me. And so brands were like, hey, we have these multicultural initiatives and these multicultural budgets. And so doing a lot of vetting and finding like interest. For me, I work with sponsors, right, to amplify their messages and to find alignment. And I think with any partnership, all money isn't good money, and you want to make sure that you align with people who really share your values and have common goals. And so for me, my first deal was with an insurance company 4 years ago, and I'm still with them. I'm a brand ambassador. They don't operate in DC, but they do operate in Atlanta. Their name is their American Family Insurance, and they actually were the head sponsor for my Dream Village tour with OWN.
Nice. Awesome. We just closed the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. We just closed actually on our very first property 2 weeks ago. We closed on a 30,000 square foot commercial building in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's going to be a film studio and an entrepreneur incubator. And one of the biggest hurdles that Jay and I face is finding people who look like us, who are experts. And we believe that, and I believe that we cannot nation build until we can community build. And we are very intentional about pulling from our community and pouring into our community. And just something as small as finding a Black architect. We had this list of Black architects, and we're calling, and we're not getting responses back, and this person doesn't have the resume, and this person doesn't have the experience. So I think the biggest hurdle is finding people who look like us, who are experts and seasoned, and not that they don't exist, but, you know, I think us as Black business owners and entrepreneurs, we have to, like you said, have our business together. You know, if you're an architect or you're in whatever field, have a business card, have a website, have a business to your business. And that has been the biggest hurdle with us, is finding professional, seasoned, experienced partners that look like us.
So I'm not necessarily a business owner, although I have ventured in that space for a little bit. But I'm going to speak from my first deal from a little bit of a different perspective. My first deal was actually as a nonprofit leader, where under President Obama, I launched what was called a Promise Neighborhood Initiative. And we were a startup nonprofit here in the District of Columbia that was awarded a $28 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education, less than like 6 months old. And the reason that I share that deal is because there's multiple ways in which we can make an impact, and that we're, bringing revenue or opportunities to create jobs and jobs and investments for our community. We initially, before my leadership, went after that grant and was actually denied. And we were looking at how do we do this work to kind of President Obama wanted to end generational poverty through education. And so initially we took a very technical approach in terms of bringing more resources, et cetera, into the schools, and that didn't work. When I came on board, one of the things that I realized was that schools alone and what's happening in those 8 hours with our babies is one thing. But once they leave those schools and they go back home and they go into these communities where there's I won't go into all of that, right? There's a whole myriad of things that we had to address. So what we did was created a 2-generation model in which we were educating, working with, and investing in mothers, because the heads of households there was 90%. This was in a community in Ward 7 called Kenilworth Parkside. We had about 2,500 students. What was and this translates regardless if you're a nonprofit, government, for-profit. What we created was a model and a strategy that was responsive and authentic and aligned with real social conditions in that community. And so for anyone who is in a business, anyone who is interested in pursuing politics, I'm not sure what different avenues you all are thinking of, but I probably am approached in my role by no less than 50 people a week, right? Who are all ready to pitch, share, articulate some way that they either want, one, a grant from the District of Columbia, a contract from the District of Columbia, to be a partner with the District of Columbia and or NCBW, but it's not necessarily always authentic or aligned. And so, when I think about my first deal, it's about really understanding what the priorities were of that community, but also what the priorities were of that administration that was giving out that $28 million that I had to secure to make that investment and to be able to be a change for the better.
Okay. So I'm a lawyer, and so getting a job back when I first started practicing law really probably wasn't that difficult. There were clearly not as many women lawyers as there are now, and clearly not as many women of color lawyers. So can't really say that getting a job at that point was very, very difficult, and it hasn't been. But my husband and I are in the car business, and I know Thomas's story. And I know that a big part of his story is in getting the business, and then what do, is he had an amazing mentor. So to the extent that when you are starting, whether you're coming from college, that you align yourself with someone from college or in your business, that when you know that your journey is to be an entrepreneur, that you give time and attention to that relationship. Thomas had an amazing mentor who was already in the car business, who encouraged him. He was actually pursuing a PhD, and this gentleman talked him into being a car dealer. So that worked out. But it took a powerful person, someone who was interested in him. So now that we have the businesses, what now? And I think everyone has touched on it. But for us, and we have people here, the overriding, once you have it, is providing superior service to whomever is your end user. At the end of the day, it's about giving that customer, that client, superior service. Tim will tell you, that wakes us up in the morning and that puts us to bed at night. Have we delivered a car to the best of our ability? Was it immaculate? Did we have a note inside thanking the individual? Did we return a phone call? Every day is a new day for us. Every month we start all over again. It's not a continuing thing. If you don't make it this month, it's not like you can just... Every month is a new day, a new year for us in the car business. So whatever your business is, once it's established, you've heard this 1,000 times. Under promise, over deliver. Provide excellent service to whomever your end user is. That's the only way that you're going to be able to stay in business. You've done your nuts and bolts, you're incorporated, you're running along smoothly, you're paying your taxes. But if you don't wow that person who is your client, it will all be for naught. So superior employees, superior service, your own integrity, your own standards of excellence will be what keeps that business going.
You got this crowd alive today. I see a lot of people taking notes. Someone in the back is writing on napkins. So we got a time for a couple more pre-selected questions, and then I'm going to come out to the audience and get a couple questions from you all. So earlier, Mrs. Moorhead talked about a common thread, and the next thing I want to ask is about habits. And what habits do you have or are innate within you or you developed to make you successful? You're all in 4 different industries or areas, but you're successful in your own way. So talk about the habits that made you successful.
Habits. I see my better half. He's back there in the back, and one of the things that...
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand, Lee Bellamy.
There he is. Let's give him a support. Give him a clap, y'all. Thanks for coming out and supporting him.
We all need a good partner. But no, so one of the things that he raises in multiple people, and I see one of my sisters here from the 100 Elise, he says, like, I'm consistently inconsistent. And when I think about habits, I don't really have any habits. And maybe that is part of the habit, right? I'm not a very rigid person. I do value people who can create a work plan down to the T, who wake up every morning. My alarm goes off at like 6 a.m. And then I hit snooze to about 7:15, right? Like in my head, I'm getting up. That next day is going to be the day that I become an early morning person. Or that next day is going to be the day that I become a person who goes to bed at 10:30 or 11 o'clock. It just does not happen. And so part of my habit is just being very flexible and fluid. And I'm sure it drives some of the people crazy in my circle in my life. But I thrive off of that. Like I don't. There's nothing that is like so structured in a way that gets me to that level. But I will say, and I was watching a documentary about Usain Bolt, and what I was blown away by was the intense like focus and commitment that it takes to be excellent. Now, I think I'm excellent, right? And I may not have that level of like intensity in terms of diligence and discipline, but I do have that level of intensity in terms of the way I want to deliver and the way I want to drive impact. So I'm consistently like just being open and flowing, but I do have some broader visions and goals, but there's not like some one habit that I would say dictates or drives who Eris Scales is and how or why per se I got here, other than just being like a lifelong learner and super flexible.
I am probably completely opposite. I was a track star. I ran track in high school and ran track in college. And when you run track, you have a coach. Your coach tells you what to do, when to wake up, when to practice, when to do the push-up, how many to do. And I was successful. And after college, and I got my first real job before I started acting full-time and starting my companies, I worked retail. And you had a boss. Your boss tells you what to do, how much the numbers you have to make, when to go on lunch break. And when I decided to walk into entrepreneurship 100% and be an actress and own businesses, there was no one there to hold me accountable. And a lot of us can relate because a lot of us are entrepreneurs. There's no boss. There's nobody to hold you accountable. And a very good friend of mine who's a mentor of mine, David Banner, he told me, he said, you have to have something that holds you accountable, even if it's something that's small. He said, even if it's something as small as making your bed every day. Creating a habit that you hold yourself accountable to, even something as small as making your bed. So I make my bed every day because that's something that I hold myself accountable to, and it creates some type of discipline. And being a former track athlete, I was always taught discipline. And now that track is no longer here and the boss is no longer here, I have to do something, small things that hold me accountable. So my two things are, well, it's a few things. I work out daily. And I don't care what's going on, who's doing what, how popping it is, if I have to get my workout in, because that's something I do for me to keep me fed and keep me balanced and keep me on track and keep me accountable. I make my bed every day. Just besides the days my husband sleeps in, but I make it. So I make my bed every day because that's something that I have to hold myself accountable to. And it's the nuances and it's the habits that really make you great, in my opinion, and help you stay on the track of success, is holding yourself accountable to even the smallest of nuances. So those are things that I do.
Man, you make your bed every day. So for me, I think it's more of what Eris talked on about. I can't really say, my habit is I get up and I go every day. Like, it's go. But it's more so of a mentality where you guys probably picked up. I have this insane commitment to being excellent. It doesn't matter what it is. If I do it, I'm going to be excellent at it. And I think that confidence is a practice habit as well. Taking risk is a practice habit as well. And my friends look at me because I have 3 small kids, 2, 6, and 10. And my husband and I take crazy risks that most single people take because you don't have to feed, people. And you say you don't have a boss. I have a 2-year-old little boss. I got to get home to her real soon. So I practice, taking risk is a habit that is a muscle, right? Like the more you take risks, the stronger that muscle gets and the more confident you get. And the more you focus on being excellent at whatever it is you do, the easier the risk becomes because you know you're going to give the effort necessary to make the risk worth it. And so if there's anything, it's a commitment to excellence and it's a commitment to taking risks that I practice on a daily basis when I get up and go.
Man, taking a risk is a habit. Everyone writing down. That made my week, maybe my month, and I know it just started. So last pre-selected question before I come out to the audience. What has been the best part of your journey thus far? What's been the best part of it?
Failure. For me, failure's by far been the best part of my journey. It hasn't felt the best, but it's been the best because I've grown from it, I've learned from it, and it's made me a wiser person. And failure, it's nothing like getting knocked off your bike to sit there and figure out, like, how do I ride this thing and not fall? Like, where do I need to not go? Who do I need to not ride past? Like, what do I need to do? And so for me, it's been failure because it's really helped shape what I'm doing right now. And it's helped me to be a little bit smarter about my actions.
Nice. I would piggyback off your risk. Taking the risk for me has been the best part of my journey. Steve Harvey said something like the parachute doesn't open until you jump. And me just moving from LA around all my family in a world that I knew to move 2,000 miles away to Atlanta and take a risk to start businesses and be a full-time actress, that has been the best part of my journey. My husband is a 3-time felon, former drug dealer. I'm an actress who had no type of real estate knowledge or business knowledge. But these two people, this ex-drug dealer and this actress, just launched the world's first black-owned real estate fund and raised $12 million in a week. So it was the risk, really taking the risk. If you want to do it, just jump out there and go do it.
The best part of my journey has been, I would say, everything that has been and honestly everything that is to come. Every day I wake up and I think we probably all ask ourselves, like, are we doing exactly what it is that we want to do? What exactly am I doing? But that's the journey. And so for me, the best part is like maturing to a point where those kind of questions don't begin to become debilitating, or those kind of questions don't get to a point where I feel like I need to all of a sudden deviate or alter my course. Like, the journey is the journey. And so when you release that and you just go with that and understand that there's nothing that, even when we try to plan it to the best of our abilities, we try to control it, we try to manage it, there's going to always be something that comes in and takes it in a different direction. And so, I'm constantly thinking ahead and looking out, and I kind of see it. And so when I'm going along, I'm like, I hit a moment where I'm like, I saw this, right? I'm experiencing this. This is what I was projecting. This is what I was hoping for. But then there's going to be these things that come up that I absolutely, unequivocally never anticipated. I personally enjoy that. Like, that's just part of who my nature is. And so for me, and it's probably a little cliche, but like the best part of the journey is literally the journey, and all of the trials and tribulations, the successes, the accolades, the rewards, the relationships, the women that I get to bring along with me, the women that I get to invest in, the communities that I get to advocate for and raise money for every single day, the politicians that I get to galvanize around, my family, my loved ones. Like, that is the best part of my journey, just being Eris and becoming Eris and knowing Eris and loving Eris. I became.
I agree with what Eris said. For me, it's not the destination, but it is the journey. And having had the opportunity to be probably a little farther up the road in my journey than most of you, I can truthfully say that the biggest and best part of my journey is now the ability to give back.
There you go. Yes.
And to do that in a big way. We have a foundation, and we've given away roughly $4 million.
Amazing.
So whether it's an employee who has a new baby, and I can go out and buy baby clothes, which just makes me happy, or I'm stroking a check for a scholarship. The other thread that is between us is that, and we don't want to lose sight of this, is that we are all very blessed, highly favored. And so to get to this point in my life where I can spend so much of my time and my resources giving back. Not that I didn't, I know that I did all along the way, or I wouldn't be in this position. So it isn't like you got to wait until you get where we are, or I am. You can do it in small ways every day. It's called random acts of kindness. Those are the good parts of the journey. The work, everybody. If you want to eat, you're going to work. But that journey is kind of laid out for us from the time we get here. But to the extent that you share, that you give back to somebody else, is for me the best part of what I've been able to achieve in my journey. That makes me very, very happy.
Awesome. So I have time to take a couple questions from the audience. I'm going to come out there. Can I get a raise of hands?
What's the one thing that you felt that you needed to learn in your journey that you did not come to the table with?
Great question.
I'll answer that because I talked with somebody. I'll start with that because I talked with somebody about this Monday. When I first started practicing law, I did it on a class action level. I did work in desegregation, impacting great numbers of people, children. I also did housing litigation, housing discrimination litigation, again, big numbers. I did voting rights. I was able to do all of this because I was with the NAACP, so that's how I got to do those things. So for me, in order to affect change and in order to have an impact, you had to do these grandiose things. I had to, you go to Milwaukee and you have a desegregation suit, you get a whole blocks of housing removed in Coconut Grove, Florida, or you do something significant with voting rights. So the thing that I have learned is that onesies and twosies matter. I really have spent so much of my time focusing on the big picture, trying to affect change for so many, and I don't back away from that. But I have come to learn that making a difference in the life of one person is as impactful as anything else that you could ever do. And I know we talk about it, especially as it relates to children and helping children and mentoring children and teaching children. But just to be able to make an impact in the life of one child, I have come to learn, or one adult, or one woman, or one girl, that to me has been the most significant reckoning that I've had to make for myself. And I'm glad that I'm still around, and it's come to me now that so onesies and twosies matter. That's what I've come to know.
I'll say for me, I wasn't always open to the course changing. I always thought I had this picture in my head, and this is the idea that I'm bringing to the table, and this is what it is. And God quickly reminded me that you think you know what you want, but I know what you need. And I'm now open to God changing the course and just being okay with it, because God may have something else that I didn't even see. And as a poet, I remember I did a poem on the Arsenio Hall show called Average Black Girl. And when I did this poem, I thought it was all about me. Like, I'm going to be viral, I'm going to be popping, I'm going to be booked, I'm going to speak here, I'm going to speak here, and nothing happened with it. And God took 365 days to prepare me. And then it went viral, over 60 million views, and that was God saying it never was about you, and I had to prepare you for you to understand that it was about your voice and being a voice for other black women and for other black girls. So now I just accepted, like, God, I put it in your hands. Wherever you want this course to go, I'm open to it.
This is a point I wanted to make sure I could share while I was here, and I was like, when is the opportunity? So here it is. This has a lot to do with something that we can all, I've learned this, and I'm trying to practice this as much as possible in my leadership journey, as well as in my journey of following. I think when we are in roles and we see people who are the executive director, I work for the mayor, I'm the president of an organization, we have a lot of opinion. We have managers, supervisors, about what we think they should be doing or how they should be doing things. And if I was in that role, or if I was, what I wouldn't do. And something that I've had to learn that I didn't initially come to the table with early in my, my career and my journey was compassion, empathy, and understanding that we don't know every single dynamic that person is dealing with, or all the different stakeholders, constituents, donors, partners, life experiences that they are having to answer to. And so I mean this with all sincerity. One thing that I try to do, and sometimes it's hard, not in my current life, but is to be empathetic and understand a little bit more what that person may be going through, or who that person is. It is hard when you are trying to lead a team, or you're trying to push an agenda, and people want to consistently fight you. Now, there is ownership on you as a leader to get people to buy in, to support, and to come along. But one of the things that we can just do as women of color, particularly when we have other women who are in those roles, and this is part of coming to the table already equipped with that, is how do I support her? How do I amplify that? How do I partner to help move that agenda forward more effectively, more quickly, with less heartache and strife? And so the more that we can kind of, practice that in and of ourselves, I think it helps us just get a little bit further along, because we don't have to spend so much time trying to fight amongst each other or trying to defend ourselves. Because if you're not going to follow or support that person, then the best thing you can do is get out the way. Not stay there, not sit there and be a cancer or amplify that or be negative and distract them from the mission and the journey that you all have committed to doing together.
All right, we got time for 2 more questions. Anyone else have a question?
Hi, my name is Jamela Ellis. Thank you all so much. It's been very, very helpful. And I know the answer may be different for each of you, but how do you know where to invest your time, if that makes sense? You're very busy. You all have your businesses. You have, other things that you have to deal with, and there's so many worthwhile causes, and the onesies and twosies matter, right? How do you go about the process of deciding, this is where I invest and this is where I have to respectfully decline?
So I have three kids, and so how I spend my time is I'm sure with anybody, I think very long and hard about it. I used to think that I had to say yes to every opportunity. I see some people nodding. I used to think if I said no, another opportunity wouldn't come back around, right? Operating, but I had to also, and I had to also identify or understand that I was operating from a space of fear. And so when it comes to how I invest my time, when an opportunity, when something presents itself, I check what space it immediately puts me in when I consider it. Does it put me in a space where I feel like I'm gonna miss out, or I'm afraid it won't come back around, or does it put me in a space where I gotta be there because I like being with the people, or I really have. So I look at the space it puts me in immediately. I get emails all day, every day. Can you do this? Can you come here? Can I get 5 minutes of your time? I had somebody pop up at my co-working space who got off in the federal government early one day, scariest thing ever, and popped up because he wanted to pick my brain. Not my pocket. I wanted to pick his pocket. I'm like, he wanted to pick my brain. So, but I immediately try to think about what mental space does the opportunity put you in. If it puts you in a good mental space, that's something you want to explore. You also have to think about opportunities that come about that might not put you in a good mental space, but you understand that it's not about you in that moment. Right? It's about, and I'll be something very simple. Like I had to take my kids trick-or-treating last night. I did not want to go trick-or-treating because I had, I don't know if you guys follow Because Then We Can, but I had a video that I was producing and we were trying to edit it last night. And I knew for me to go trick-or-treating meant that was 2 hours out of pocket with some little bad kids that I didn't want to be around, bumping my kids, and I wasn't going to be able to get work done that I had to do. But it wasn't about me. It was about giving my kids the time that they needed with me and allowing them to have that experience. And so I think you have to make sure that you're balancing it and understanding moments when it's not about you, but it's about what somebody else's needs that you are uniquely equipped to provide. And you also have to look at other opportunities where what kind of space, mental space, what type of visceral reaction do I have when the opportunity presents itself, and then go from there.
Excellent question, because it's always a struggle of so many hours in the day, so many days in the week. But I'll go back to something I said earlier about passion and what you're passionate about. And so for me, I'll just stick with me, I try to align myself and my time with the things that I'm passionate about. Entrepreneurship, so this request fit into that. The theater. I'm on the board of Arena Stage. I give my time to that. And then education for people of color, and particularly with HBCUs. So I'm on a university board, and when I try to only serve on one at a time. I have served on as many as two. So that's when I get an invitation that asks me to come participate in something health related. I know I can't, there's nothing I can do for that. I don't know the field. I don't know. I can't go. So there's nothing I can say. So I try to stay where I'm passionate. I try to stay where I'm halfway knowledgeable. And so if you stay around those things that you like, then you kind of know what you're good at, and you say no to those things that you're just going to be filling a seat or, writing a check. And I can, you make those choices.
Okay, we got time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Sharika. My question is, what is the biggest mistake that you have made in your career that turned out to be the biggest lesson?
Did y'all hear it?
No.
Or did y'all not make no mistakes in your career? Which one is it?
Trying to figure out how transparent we want to be.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
I wasn't sure what she said.
She said, what is the biggest mistake that we've made that's turned out to be the biggest lesson?
In business?
Blessing or lesson?
Just, I think, lesson.
Lesson. She said lesson.
So I'll know we're pressed for time, so I'll just go off the top of my head. One of the biggest mistakes that I have learned, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is that, like Unique, I go. Anybody who knows me or works with me or loves me knows that I'm like, it's quick. And so when I get these opportunities, I'm kind of mobilizing and galvanizing quickly. Successfully. However, all of the things, and this also goes back to what Ms. Joyce talked about at the beginning, is like there are these foundational things that you have to put into place that are just as important as being able to like execute, right? And so you can execute. My sister's here from the 100. We are executing every single day. We are killing it for the last 3 years. But we still have foundational things that, being totally transparent, that we need to address as a chapter. And so there have been, many lessons, and I can talk more offline about it, but as much as we want to get out there and do the work, it is just as important that we make sure that we get our house in order. I talked about the $28 million that was raised as a startup. I mean, it was almost, I'm going to go on record to say this, irresponsible of the federal government to give an organization that had been around for like 6 months $28 million to invest in social impact and change. We didn't have a staff, we didn't have an office, we didn't have policies and procedures, we had a board that had just been formed. So, I would say, and I'm sure many of us are these go-getters, we want to go out here and make an impact, we want to lead, we want to make money, we want to be positive, that take the time to do the things that have to be done to put your house in order so that you can have sustainability across the board and not these immediate quick impacts.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to be very specific. I'll be vague, a little ambiguous. You can ask me offline because I see this camera and I don't want this floating on social media. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made is I wanted success so bad that I was willing to overlook character flaws and issues and people that I had aligned myself with, because that alignment in my mind was going to produce results that I thought I couldn't get outside of that alignment. Does that make sense? This is y'all nodding with me, you blinking? So I think that what I ended up learning was that I have to go with my gut. And my parents raised my sisters and I to be upstanding women of character and integrity. And that's something that I never compromised, but I overlooked other people's compromises in their own individual endeavors that still impacted mine. And so I think that that was a big lesson, that there are just certain non-negotiables and character flaws at our age don't really go away. Like they get sprayed over with perfume and they get maxed over, and you're like, maybe he did change. Maybe they read the 4 agreements. They're a better person. Like, no, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's coming back up. So if you see it and it's problematic, it's gonna be problematic when it come back up again. So that was a big mistake, because it could have really derailed my entire business and everything that I have spent my entire life to build, because I thought I needed to overlook it to be successful. And I think that it's a lesson in that there's nobody, no person, no human that you need more than yourself to create success. And so you can never don't ever overvalue someone's, and I'm not saying this in a way to be arrogant, like, I'm good, and no, but don't ever give somebody that role where their presence supersedes what you bring to the table and the value that you possess within. Absolutely. That was the biggest lesson.
Can everyone please join me in thanking our panelists? Joyce, Eris, Ernestine, and Unique Jones Gibson. Hopefully you feel that you learned something tonight and you're a step closer to reaching your goals. If not, or if you want to speak to our panelists in deeper discussion, we'll be networking for the next 15 to 20 minutes. Please take the time to reach out. I think Unique needs to get home to the 2-year-old soon. But you said what? Oh, yeah. 5 minutes, I'm sorry. But please take this time to network. Like they said earlier, it's all about building that network, and that's part of the reason why we do these. So I do also want to thank the park, their staff, and the bartenders, as I can tell some of y'all have enjoyed that. And please look on our website, catalystnetworkfoundation.org, for future events that we'll be holding in 2019. Thank you for coming out. Ladies.